The city clerk's office estimates the two recent special elections for San Diego's mayor cost the city more than $8 million. Would it have been cheaper and more successful to have mail-in only elections? San Diego's Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez thinks so and has introduced state legislation to allow special elections to be conducted by mail-in ballot only. County Supervisor Dave Roberts and San Diego County Registrar Michael Vu join me for a closer look at this very issue. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, Supervisor Roberts, what would the proposed legislation called the VOTE Act actually allow counties to do?
Well, Assemblymember Gonzalez's legislation gives the opportunity in special elections to conduct them by mail only. And this is an issue that had actually come up in my district as well as down in South Bay when some elections came up and for one reason or another they couldn't do just by mail elections. And the concern was the cost involved in these elections in getting people to vote. So underneath this legislation in special elections, and this is something the County Board of Supervisors has supported for a long time, long before I was on the board, and I have to give Supervisor Diane Jacob and the entire board credit for proposing this legislation.
And supporting it.
And supporting
I see. Michael, would there still be some polling locations on special election days if this bill were approved?
Yes, there would be. It's known nationally is called vote centers, and what they would be is super centers where we would designate specific sites for voters to go to. And this would serve individuals, for example, like people with disabilities or people with limited English proficiencies, so that the way there is access, there are individuals that speak a specific language. And of course, as this county knows, not only do we provide it in English, but we provide the ballot in Spanish, Filipino, Vietnamese, and Chinese.
And Supervisor Roberts was talking about the cost of these special elections and mail-in. What is the difference in cost between, let's say, a mail-in ballot and a ballot cast at a traditional polling place?
Well, it could be anywhere from a couple of dollars per vote, or it could be in a mail ballot world, or it could be several $100s depending on the overall turnout for a polling place as well as mail ballot environment.
But don't some cities already conduct entire mail-in ballots elections?
There have been certain cases where cities, pursuant to their charter, has the ability to conduct their election by all mail ballots. But those cities that don't have a provision within their charter have to fall back to state law. And that's where Supervisor Dave Roberts has talked about this notion of allowing cities the opportunity to conduct mail ballot elections.
So 2 of the 5 cities in my district are general law cities, and they each recently had a voter-initiated initiative, a question the voters wanted answered. One was in Encinitas, one was in Solana Beach. In Encinitas, it cost them $350,000 for an answer. In Solana Beach, $150,000. High turnout, you know, and so the councils there, if they could have had this option, may have said, let's do a vote by mail. Instead of spending that large amount of money, we could have done it for a fraction
of the
cost. Yes.
One question. How about this? Critics say that mail-in votes may be more susceptible to fraud, vote buying, or bribery. How do you address those concerns?
You know, we've got a phenomenal new headquarters building at the county for our registrar of voters, and anybody that wants can go and see all the security precautions that we take there. And in this last election, my son actually worked at the polls. He came home and said, Dad, you can't believe how much security is involved. We check from vote by mail every signature against the signature on file to make sure it is that person. And I think that all the security precautions have been put in place, and I'm very, very confident that our registrar of voters, Michael Vu's shop, does a great job of making sure that these elections are run to the highest standards.
So at the registrar's office, that sounds pretty good, but what about concerns, Michael, that ballots could be lost in the mail or worse, even stolen?
Well, number one is we're working closely with the U.S. Postal Service to see if there's any systemic issues out there if individuals are not getting there. But we also have a tool online, a couple of tools online for voters out there. Number one, if a person has not received their mail ballot, they're going to contact us. We'll work with the U.S. Postal Service. But if they do receive it and they send it through the postal office, they can actually, once we receive it, there's a barcode on there. And on that barcode, it's associated to the voter. We'll put that into our system, and a voter has the ability to go online, check to see or not if we received it. And then subsequent to that, determine whether or not it has been counted.
Well, certainly I know that other places do this, and I just wanted to end on this. What do you think about as far as conducting general elections entirely by mail, for instance, like Oregon does?
You know, I think this is an option right now for special elections, and that's what we're talking about. Some people still like going to the polls, and that, people that have, physical disabilities that might want to go to a poll. So I think this is a step looking at this, and I think it solves some really, pressing issues that we've had, such as the cost. We want to try to get as many people voting as possible, and that's really what this is all about. The more people who vote, the more people that are bought into what their governments are doing.
All right, County Supervisor Dave Roberts and Registrar of Voters Michael Vu, thank you so much.
Thank you.